going on, everybody? Good morning to you. Friends, it's your humble Sergeant Major. What can I say, friends? What can I say? I got many duties, friends. Friends, I dropped my children off at school today, and friends, my son forgot his lunchbox. I had to go all home, friends, and that put me like 30 minutes behind the schedule, but we're out here, everybody. Friends, we're out at the Samford, the Samford Cemetery today. We got a lot of work to do, friends, but we're putting a dent in it. We're really putting a dent in it. Friends, check it out. We're going to be in the Brandon Parade, the Brandon, Florida Parade, friends, 4th of July. Oh, yeah, friends. I'm going to get my bug-out trailer. We're going to deck it out with all the camo netting. I'm going to slap some banners on either side, everybody. I got to find someone to drive the truck. My wife, she's not allowed, friends. But I'm going to be on top of the trailer with my binos, friends. You don't believe me? Friends, I'm going to be on the trailer. It's going to be my float, and I'm going to be looking at you. And I'm going to be telling my children, my grizzly soldiers, to throw some candy over yonder. And look over there. I see you. And I'm going to be watching all the rest of y'all. And if I find any perverted folks, well, I'll throw you a little Jesus miniature. We're going to be passing those out too, friends. But we're going to be in the Brandon Parade, friends. It's $150. Friends, I need to find a sign company. Friends, if y'all have a large format printer and you can print out some banners, friends, I need a sign company. There's this guy. Friends, I'm trying to be nice. He's probably watching. There's this guy in town here. He's got a little sign company, but he don't know how to run it, friends. And I hate to be that way. I'm going to come down there and get my USB probably tomorrow, and I'm going to have a stern talking with you. Friends, I used to run a sign company. I had my own little sign shop, like, oh my gosh, friends, it was 20 years ago. When I got back from Afghanistan, everybody, I'm an art guy. I worked in sign shops. And here's something else. The man that's running that little sign shop over there in Brandon, friends, it's Brandon Signs. Friends, I used to work there under like 3 owners in the past, friends. In like 1996, it was like the coolest place in town to work because you got to make all the stickers for all your friends. And friends, I was in the rock band, so all the friends wanted the stickers. But friends, that's where I learned to make the signs and the vinyl. We didn't have the big printers back then. It was a Gerber, friends, and you had to put the weights on it, friends. It was friends, I told you, I'm old school. But when I got back from my first tour in Afghanistan, friends, and I did two of them tours. But after my first tour, I couldn't find a job. And friends, I did. I tried out for the Hillsborough County Sheriff, but I told you, I had a little drinking problem back in the day, friends. And I had a little blip on the driving record. We'll just leave it at that. I don't want y'all to judge me because that's been like 20 years, friends. And I got safe driver. Friends, I got sneaking safe driver on my driver's license now. I've been sober for 3.5 years, friends, but I don't count the days. I just thank the Lord Jesus. But friends, I owned a little sign company. It was called RM Signs, and I had a large format printer, and I did a lot of work. But friends, I didn't know how to run the business. I basically gave all my signs away for free. Friends, do you understand why God had me running the ministry? I have a hard time asking y'all for money because I feel like I'm begging. And I wanted to charge what I should have charged for all these signs, but people, I don't know, they're always trying to lowball me. And just like this dude over there, he's having a hard time right now, and he's complaining. And I'm like, look, friend, you got to spend money to make money. I'm a ministry. You're not going to charge me full price, and I ain't paying no taxes because I'm tax exempt. But he was giving me some back and forth, he can't do this, and he can't do that. Friends, the guy can't even. Friends, I got to be nice because I know he's watching right now. Friends, when I had a customer come into my store and they needed something, I said, okay, what do you need? Let me see if I can do it. Friends, the guy just had to print out a couple things and a little bit of vinyl, and he told me I was going to take him a week. But he told me he ain't got no business. But it's going to take him a week to get it done. 4 to 5 business days. I told you, friend. I don't know. I'll be by there tomorrow to get that USB. And we're going to have a little chat. Friends, there's probably a reason why that guy's company ain't doing well. Because he ain't running it like he needs to. Friends, I told the man, I gave him an offer. I said, look, my friend, I'm like an up-and-coming ministry, a charity in Brandon. I'm going to start getting a lot of attention. And I got a lawsuit that's going to be done any day, everybody. I said, I need you to get on board. I need a sign company. I need somebody I can call up and say, oh, yeah, I need a banner because I got a work party this weekend. And I got some sponsors, and I need all their logos put on it. I need you to knock it out and just charge me, like, for material. Hell, I'll even come in there and put it together because I told you I used to run a sign company. But the guy just gave me a bunch of, well, I can't do this. I can't do that. Well, that's fine, friend. You ain't going to be around much longer, I hate to tell you. Not in 2026, because I could just go on the internet and order all my signs. But I'm trying to spread the wealth to all the local businesses around here. I don't know, friends. Something caught my attention, and I just don't feel good about it. Friends, remember yesterday in our live stream, I was talking about pretending to be Spider-Man and jumping on the truck, and if y'all told me I was really Spider-Man, then maybe I'd start believing it like the transgender folks. Friends, this guy's got Batman stickers all over his car. Friends, I don't know. I mean, that's for kids. I don't know, friends. I don't want to talk mean to the guy. He's struggling. But friends, I don't know. I don't think I can help the man out. I need a sign company, friends, and I need a local sign company. I want somebody that I can call, and you can come out to the work parties and get to work with us. I don't need somebody that's going to give me a bunch of excuses and charge me like full price when I'm like, look, my friend, I'm a ministry, for goodness sakes. You're going to charge me $30 for a double-sided coroplast sign. That's a no-go, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Who the hell's chatting in here? Why is gas $4 a gallon? Well, it's real easy because we get involved in all these endless wars and the powers that be, my friend, all the folks that are in charge of our country. Well, they want to keep us poor. And friends, we live in a caste system. That's why gas is $4 a gallon. It's all true. I used to believe in our country, and I still do, friends. But I don't hoot and holler about the Trumpster. I got some flags in the garage, friends, but it's for the historical element. I mean, the man was like, they tried to assassinate the guy like 3 or 4 times. Well, friends, we can't control the price. Getting upset and getting in arguments on the social media with liberals, friends, it ain't going to do nobody no good because they don't believe in God. So you just got to pray for them and just leave them alone. But friend, gas is $4 a gallon because, hold on here. Oh, hey, what's going on? Gas is $4 a gallon because they want it to be $4 a gallon. Because they know that we'll pay $4 a gallon. Friends, if it goes up to $8 a gallon, they know that there'll be riots. And I'll be out there leading it, friends, because you know I like to do the protesting. But friends, they do it so they can just suck all the money away from us. So we stay poor. Friends, it's all about power and money. Power and money. If you have money, you have power, okay? I really wanted to believe in the Trumpster. Truly I did. Oh, who the hell's calling me? Oh, these spam. Friends, I really wanted to believe in the Trumpster, and to an extent, I kind of do, because he did. He didn't get rid of all the DEI, but he did put a dent in it. He made it very unfashionable. Oh, I got more jet fighters, friends. I pray to Jesus, Lord Jesus, please let them, friends, Avon Park. I'm near MacDill Air Force Base. That's where they're flying out of. But I heard the Trumpster wants to go down into Cuba, friends, and take Cuba over, friends. I told you, it's all about the power and the money. Trump is, and these evil people that are in charge of our country, they're maneuvering to have the power over the world, friends, the world. That's really, in my opinion, I think that's where it's heading. So they keep the gas at $4 a gallon because they know that you and I have to pay it. And that's like, it hurts. But if they go up to $5 a gallon, then they'll start having problems, friends. Friends, what I learned. Again, everybody, we're out in the field. And when you drive the Grizzly truck, we got to get in our proper PEE, just like we're downrange. Let me dare catch you not wearing your seatbelt and not having your ACH on your head, friends. It won't work out good for you. Okay, friends, I do got to get to work in a minute. Friends, what I learned about when I worked at the Bay Pines Veterans Hospital, friends, I was a GS-11. Before I was doing all this, friends, I was like all put together, all nice, but I wasn't, friends. I was hurting on the inside. I'm like in my true form right now. I could be who I want to be. I'm a lady. You must believe me. I'm a lady. Friends, I had a real good chat with my children this morning, and we talked about that mental illness, the transgender folks, friends. I just can't stand y'all. I mean, I love y'all, but y'all are just, I don't know. We've never. My children know that y'all need to get some help. But look, friends, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the caste system, friends. You got the rich and the elite, and they literally are like the 1 or 2% of all the people in the country. The Jeffrey Epstein folks, friends, all these people. Friends, they do things, friends, I can't even get into some of the things that I learned about the Bay Pines VA. But you got these folks that literally, they're like the worst devil worshipers. They know all about God and the power, but they try to harness the dark energy. Friends, because Satan has power too, but nowhere near Jesus, because God allows Satan to have that power. Remember, friends, I'm trying to teach you. God's in control of everything, friends. Every one of these folks that are buried out here, God allowed them to go meet and have the meeting with Jesus. Friends, God allowed this cemetery to get in the derelict state that it's in, and we're going to get into that in a minute. But there's a tiny group of folks, and they run it all, friends. And anytime that their power or money is ever jeopardized, they go to war, friends. And it's all about the money and the power. But friends, what I learned at the Bay Pines VA, you got all these people that are phonies. They want to bump up into that upper class, and they think if they just step on me and you, and they just lie, steal, and cheat their way up there, then they'll be able to go to the perverted the pajama parties, friends. and friends, there's photo. I got a photo of all the leadership at Bay Pines in their pajamas at work. It was a happy holidays nonsense that they were pushing back in 2023. I couldn't believe it, friends. Like, these are supposed to be the leaders of the hospital. I need some care. Maybe I'm suicide. Maybe I don't feel well, friends. I don't want to say a word to get me the community strike. But you know how I feel about these clowns that go out there in the name of veteran suicide. I'm going to go for a swim. Look at me. I'm swimming across Tampa Bay. Make a news article about me. Oh, let's go on a Harley ride and drink some beer and cruise around. Oh, for veteran suicide, yeah. Hey, get a shot waiting for me at the next stop. Friends, that's nonsense. That don't do nothing for no damn veterans. Getting out here in this community is what's going to stop that veteran suicide. And I'm bringing awareness, friends. Friends, I was never suicidal, but I've had some dark days, friends. Trust me, I've absorbed a lot of trauma in my travels. But friend, your question was about the $4 gas. It's true, friend. And when we get comfortable paying $4, well, friend, they're gonna bump it up to $4.25. And then after a few months, we'll adjust our budgets, and then it'll keep going. It'll keep going until we're literally drowning. We ain't got no money. Because friends, again, the whole point is to keep us with no power, no control. That way they can, friends, look, we got the jet fighters flying over. Friends, when you get to the spiritual level, God will reveal these things to you. It ain't about Mike Evans and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It ain't about LGBT. Friends, they hate all of us. They just use those LGBT folks. That's why I got a lot of mercy for y'all. Friends, I got the Kevlar on. Y'all think I'm kidding around. I got jet fighters. Friends, we might be being invaded right now. I'm certainly glad I brought all my gear with me. I can't show you the other gear I got, friends. They'll definitely terminate the live stream. So, friends, what I'm trying to teach you is a lot of y'all, friends, I used to be the same way. Well, I voted for Trump, so I got to say so in this and this and that or whatever. Friends, you get one vote, but friends, that don't even matter. It don't even matter, friends. They stole that election from us. Fair and square, they stole that election in 2020. We all know that by now. Friends, the people who are in charge are typically the corporations. They're the type of folks that buy up all the farmland that we're in right now. Friends, I'm in the cemetery. Look, friends, let me just show you. Let's get out. I just get a little hot in the truck. And I got World War III kicked off. Friends, what I'm trying to explain to you is those type of people don't care about places like this. And they just build the homes. Friends, look at these homes over here. I'm sure if they could cram in another 1,000 homes and just make them all touched, would have done it, friends. How come these folks don't get out of their beds on Saturday morning and literally come over here and get the job done? Well, friends, I told you I'm a psychology guy. And it's not that hard. They want us drunk. They want us on the SSRIs, the drugs that make the private parts not work. Because, friends, that keeps you from having children, and then you don't have families. They want you watching the silly AI. Friends, I don't do any AI. No AI for me. Friends, Remy the kitty cat, it's got like 20 or 30,000 views now, and that's all real. That's not an AI kitty cat, but they want y'all dumbed down on the drugs, on the alcohol, medical marijuana. Uh-oh, that lady's looking at me, friends. I may have to take the Kevlar off. I don't want no trouble from the neighbors. But if that lady comes over here, I'm going to say, look, ma'am, how come this place looks, you live right over there, how come this place looks so horrible? The sergeant major had to come out here and get it squared away. Hold on, friends, please. That's right, friends. I'm a goofball. I do social media. I'm bringing awareness to all these problems in our society. But friends, again, the $4 gas, in a year, it'll be $5. And in a few years, it'll be $10. And we'll just get used to it. We'll just make those adjustments. Because, again, they just want us just barely getting by. With the amount of wealth in our country, everybody, with the amount of resources, we shouldn't have homeless anybody, let alone veterans, friends. We should have food that has nourishment for our children so they're not overweight and chubby and unhealthy. Because that just keeps us on the friends. Oh my goodness, I could be here all day and I gotta get to work. Friends, what I'm saying is they want us weak, unhealthy, and so they can control us, friends. Friends, if y'all can't figure it out, I'm kind of hard to control. Only Lord Jesus controls me. I typically don't really care for authority, friends, because it's usually perverted, and there's not a lot of good godly leaders anymore. Not any that I've come across in a long time. Because, friends, a leader's going to come out here and get this job done. So, friend, I don't know. The $4 of gas. It breaks my heart because I got a big old truck and I ain't going to drive no girly truck because a little girly truck ain't going to get the damn job done. Look, friends, I did some history lessons on this cemetery. Look, friends, we're at the Samford Cemetery right now. And I'm going to let y'all know something. I'm going to let y'all haters know something. Come in here very clearly, so y'all can read my lips. Friends, the Grizzly Army Ministries we've taken command of the cemetery. Friends, that's right. I'm in charge out here now. This is my plot of land. I mean, I don't have the deed to it. But friends, we yesterday, friends, if you've been following the story here, on Tuesday, I was making a list of all the cemeteries in the area. Friends, I'm in Hillsborough County. I'm down here in Tampa. Because, friends, I started a operation. It's Operation No Veterans Headstone Left Behind. And my task and my goal, and we always meet our suspense dates. My task is to clean every veteran's headstone in Hillsborough County, friends. I mean, everyone that's dirty, derelict, in a private cemetery that's been forgotten about. And friends, I learned about the cemetery a year ago. But this is before I had that friends, I graduated my Sergeant Major's Academy. This last storm I had to go through. It's all spiritual, friends, not the real Sergeant Major. But friends, I found the cemetery a year ago, and it broke my heart, but I didn't come out here. I was dealing with other stuff at the time. But on Tuesday, I looked it up on Google. I found it, and I saw the pictures I saw broke my heart. So I told my wife, I gotta go. We're out of here. And I just cruised on out of here, friends. And when I came out here, friends, this place looked horrible. Behind that tree over there is a bunch of graves. And all these graves, we did a lot of good mowing, friends. But this place looked like this right here. Friends, look at this. This is horrible. This cemetery has not been mowed or maintained in over 10 or 15 years. Friends, I got veterans out here. I got a veteran right here. Hold on, turn this around, please, Corporal Stevens. Joseph Register Jr. Friends, this is where the fright got me the other day. I had a bunch of fire ants. Korean War veteran. Friends, his resting place looked like this over here. Forgotten, lost. This whole area right here, friends, we mowed it the other day and weed whacked it. I got 2 more soldiers right over here. Friends, how am I going to get all the headstones in Hillsborough County cleaned if I can't even look at them because they got overgrowth? I got old, friends, this cemetery. Again, friends, we found out this cemetery is one of the oldest cemeteries in Hillsborough County. It used to be called the Peru Cemetery. Hold on, friends. I don't want no trouble out of these neighbors. If they come over here and give me, because I'm wearing a Kevlar out here, I'm going to tell them that I got TBI. And it's true, friends, I do. I had a Nahidi go off near my head. And then I'm going to ask them why they allowed, they drive past this every day. How come this place looks so bad? And friends, if they get real mouthy with me, I told you I got holes all over the place, friends. I got a gaggle of holes right there for these 2 neighbors over yonder. But friends, check it out. This place is old. And I watched a video last night. And this video, the local news, friends, the local news used to kind of do news. But then, it all turned into diversity, equity, and inclusion. But don't get me all started on that, friends. We'll be a whole day chatting with that. Friends, this is about 2 acres. It's a family cemetery. And they got all sorts of families in here. The Reverend's over there, friend. Look, we unearthed the Reverend. He's over there. You couldn't even see that obelisk. We'll go over there in a minute. Friends, the brush had overtaken that. The brush was like 4 feet tall, friends. This place has not been maintained in 10 years, 15 years. But I found a video last night. And they were interviewing the man. His name's Mr. Michael Button. Friends, I don't even think the man's alive anymore. Because he was like 74 or 76 10 years ago. It was 2016 is when I found this article. Friends, go look at it. I made a video last night. And he's out here on the mower, the John Deere. But he's got a yellow one, just like me. He's out here mowing it. And he's like, we can't get nobody to help us. This place is abandoned. It's derelict. And I can't do it no more. This is like my last season. And friends, I think the man passed away. And his wife used to come out here and help him. Because this was like their little spiritual... kind of like me, friends, like how God gave it to them, he's passed it on to me. It just took me about 15 years to get on the job, and I'm so sorry for that. But this man used to take care of this place, and he was being interviewed, and he told the lady who's interviewing him, he told him how it broke his heart that they can't get nobody to come out. Friends, this is 10 years ago. Ain't none of y'all want to come out here, friends. If I would have known about it, I don't know, I might have been drinking. But yesterday, we were seeking answers of why and how did this place turn and look and fall into the state of disrepair that it has turned into. And friends, I prayed, and I went home, and the Lord Jesus provided all those answers in that video. And I made a little short about it, friends. It's hilarious. Because at the end, the nice, pretty lady on the that nice news anchor, she's like, oh man, they don't make men like that anymore. And then, of course, friends, Sergeant Grizzlegrits pops out of the camera. And then the rest is me out here cleaning it up. Friends, God does make men like us. But a lot of us are still dealing with the depression or the drinking or whatever, friends. My whole motto over the last couple of years with this project, Sergeant Grizzlegrits Center of Excellence, my whole motto, my whole theme was, I'm going to teach you how to be a man again. Because again, friends, why we got $4 gas is because we put up with it. Why our cemeteries look like this is because we fall into the trap of, well, I'm going to work all week, I'm going to get drunk all night, I'm going to sleep in on Saturday, and then it's football. No. Friends, if you want to be a man, you don't dare go to that football game. And being a man ain't rolling around on a Harley, friends. I was in motorcycle clubs for like 15 years. Friends, like 15 years of my life, I cruised around in the bars. That's why I can rag on y'all. Because not one time did we come out here and do something like this. Oh, no. And any event we ever did had a lot of drinking. If you're serious about veteran suicide and putting an end to it, you need to find something to do that actually helps veterans. Not going for a little swim. Well, I'm going to go swimming around Tampa Bay. Look at me. Do a news article on me. I'm swimming for veterans. Oh yeah, for the veterans. Oh yeah, look at me. I'm getting all the attention. I'm cruising around on my Harley. Oh, why are you drunk on your Harley? Oh, well. Oh, veteran suicide awareness. Again, friends, what the hell does that stuff even do? I don't know. Am I being too hard on y'all? I mean, not my supporters. But look, friends, we're going to get to work. We got some more over here we got to clean. And friends, I got to get that tree. This whole area over here, friends. This whole area, I gotta lift up them limbs, and that's going to be a task, friends. I need some donations because, friends, when I cut all this stuff down, we got to chop it up, and then we got to haul it out of here. But God's already providing a plan for me. I'm going to have my friend over at the Brandon Roots. He's already getting the connections for us. I'm going to ask the local government, Hillsborough County, to come out here and help out, friends. This is a historic cemetery, right? Wouldn't they have a vested interest? Couldn't that be a little feel-good PR for everybody? You know, I come out here and do all the work, but then they come out here with the trucks and the claws, and they just kind of haul off all the debris. And everybody wins. But friends, I need a sign company. Look, I'll get to the comments in a moment. I got to go get my cheaters. I need to find a sign company because I need a sign out here, friends. There used to be a sign. I need a sign that says the Samford Historic Cemetery, and I need the dates, you know, and then I need just a tiny little paragraph of the history. And maybe one or two of the prominent folks that are buried out here. Think about that. If we can get this project, and we are, friends, trust me, when God puts me on an OP, friends, I don't dare leave until the Lord Jesus tells me my mission's done. I mean, I'm a stinking combat soldier, for goodness sakes. But wouldn't it be cool if, friends, I told you we took it over. They're going to have to maybe take me to court to get me out of here. But then again, I'll go to court and defend myself, and I'll say, well, you know, explain to me why all the veterans are out there being desecrated and the grass is this tall and there's trees everywhere. That's horrible. Friends, my plan, I told you, we're going to be creating a youth program. So we're going to have the youth, the Boy Scouts, I don't care, ROTC. You sign your children up, friends. This summer, we're going to put it together here in a couple weeks because school's going to be out here in a month or two. Friends, we're going to bring your children. Now, they got to be, like 12, 13, 14. But I want to get the children out in these cemeteries after we get it to a nice baseline, friends. We're going to get the children, the youth, and even some of you volunteers and parents. Y'all are going to come out here, and we're going to get this place. We're going to maintain it. Because I'm getting the heavy lifting done now, we're going to have to come out here once a month, maybe twice a month in the summer. Friends, Sefner Cemetery, which we got the work party this weekend, we have to mow it once a week in the summertime. It's a chore. And I was helping out last summer, and I'll do it again this summer. But whoever's doing it now is doing a really good job. But I'm going to bring the youth out here. We're going to teach the youth about the headstones. We're going to teach them about the veterans. We're going to teach them about the children that are buried out here. Friends, that brings awareness. That helps us reframe our thinking. I was telling my children today, because again, they were doing a little bickering this morning on the way to school, and I said, okay, hold on. I said, I was cleaning a grave yesterday of a 10-year-old child, and he loved the Ninja Turtles. Don't y'all love the Ninja Turtles? And they're like, oh yeah, Daddy, you know we do. I said, well, they had Raphael on his grave over there. And I said, I started weeping. And then I went into a chat and I talked with my children, a spiritual talk about how that child most likely had siblings and something very tragic happened. And now their brother ain't around for them to bicker with or play Legos or whatever it was. And all my children got real quiet because they started thinking about these things. And I know they're young, friends. We got to be very careful what we expose them to and teach them. But there's a spiritual element when you really think about it when you come out here to one of these places. And again, friends, we're doing the Lord's work, for goodness sakes. All right, look, friends, I'm going to get to them comments, and then I got to get to work. So hold on. I got a lot of work today. But mom's picking up the children, so I'm going to have a little extra time out here. All right, friends, I'll be right back. Oh, yeah, hold on. Where's them cheaters at? Friends, I had to go buy. This is like the 4th pair of wireless Bluetooth earbuds that I've bought in the last year. Friends, you will lose these out here because they'll just fall out of your ear and then they're gone. They're just gone. All right, let's see if we got any nice comments today. Friends, I'm trying to get better at the comments. Somebody asked about $4 gas, and then we just kind of went on a little tangent. All right, friends. All right. Let's go back up to the top. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to do it better. Oh my goodness, these people. Hey, India. Oh my goodness. Hello from India. My goodness, friends. Friends, did I not tell you that the Pentecost talks about the Holy Spirit traveling unhindered from the ends of the earth? I hope you're doing well in India. I've never been there. Oh my gosh, the corporal's back on here. Hey, Corporal, if you keep logging on, I'm going to have to promote your butt to Sergeant Major. Preparing for doomsday. Oh, friend, I'm already prepared. I got all my preps done. That's why I can come out here and clean cemeteries up now. Yeah, I'm in my true form. Hey, K-Wood, thanks for that comment. Friends, look, when Jesus removes all that alcohol and all the, friends, I call them perversions. That's drink, lust, curse words. You got to pray for it, friends. We can't do nothing on our own. We got to pray. But friends, when you get to your true form, when you find out whatever your skill is, because God's given all y'all skills, even your haters on here. But when God reveals who you really are, you can come out and do these things, and you don't care about the silly negative comments like this clown on here asking about drugs. Friends, I don't do drugs. I certainly don't. I've been sober. I dibby dabbled with the medical marijuana, but friends, it didn't. I couldn't get out here and get the job done. And the Lord Jesus commands us to have a sober mind. So I'm dead sober, my friend. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Lots of nice comments. Look out for Netanyahu. Who's this Netanyahu guy? Somebody keeps talking about Benjamin Netanyahu. What a silly name. The guy sounds perverted. I don't know. Who the hell is that guy? Hey, good morning, Survivor Empire. Nice to see you. A folding AR. Look, friend, let me tell you something. They make a stock. I can't remember the name of it. It's an adapter. I know you know what I'm talking about. You can get like 2 of them for like $45, friends. And I told you I got all my preps done. Because you need a good truck gun, friends. You need a gun that's gonna fold up. And an AR, friends. An AR is a nice platform. Don't go with the AK, friends, because they're not accurate. But I don't know, friends. You should have an AK-47. Now, friends, this is not any kind of doomsday advice. I'm just speaking generally here. You got to find a tool that there's going to be plenty of ammo. That's why I don't mess around with a 308 any longer, friends. And I might have some tools for sale coming up soon. But get you a nice, yeah, that's right. I can't remember the name of the adapter, but it has a plug in it. And you hit a button, and then the whole stock folds, friends. And it goes nicely right into your bag. And friends, I don't know. The arm braces are cool. But be careful. That ATF, they don't like us, friends. And they're always trying to find reasons to put us in jail for 10 years. But if you live in a part of America where you can get a short barrel, a pistol, friends, a pistol. I'm not giving out any illegal advice. Good Lord Jesus. I know Hillsborough County, and friends, I'm on so many lists. They're all watching. You got to find all your laws, and you got to make sure you're in compliance. But friends, you need to get you a nice truck gun or a car gun. But don't you dare leave it in there overnight, because you'll have some knuckleheads come around and help themselves to it. Oh, the edibles. Yeah, I told you. You know, those edibles are really delicious. I always like the chocolate ones. Let me think here. The s'mores are always my favorite. But, friends, I told you, Jesus he was not happy with me when I was doing the medical marijuana. But I don't do none of that. And friends, it's very expensive. And you know how much D2 I could buy with the amount. Friends, come on, I don't want to get in. That's personal. But good to see you, my friend. Oh my goodness, somebody's in Puerto Rico. Yeah, it's a sunny day down here, Miss Frog. It's a sunny day. Listen, my friend, I got a lot of love for Puerto Rico. I just love the music. I mean, it's the best beat. That's why y'all put it in every song. But I do. I have a lot of brothers. In the year 2002, in the Florida Army National Guard, friends, I retired out of the Florida Army National Guard. I'm not a real sergeant major. I just play one on TV, everybody. I retired as a sergeant first class. That's how I know all these things. Interesting airplane flying over there. But friends, one year, I was in field artillery, everybody. I was a forward observer, 13 Foxtrot. I called in artillery. That's why I got the binos, everybody. But friends, I got to get to work. My goodness, I've been jibber-jabbering now for like 30, 40 minutes here. But listen, everybody, we did an annual training at Camp Blanding in the Puerto Rican National Guard. Friends, Puerto Rico has a National Guard. They are a part of the Florida Army National. Well, it's the Puerto Rican National Guard. It's just like us, friends. They got the friends. I don't know. I can't remember. But they came to Camp Blanding in the year 2002, and I was a private. And we were doing joint training, and these folks had a hard time speaking English, friends. And I mean, they could speak English, but the accent was very heavy. So we're on the radio, and it was a lot of say again, please, slow down, say again. But it was a lot of fun. These guys knew what they were doing. Nice to see you, my friend. Nice to see you. Uh-oh, 11 Bravo. I don't know. You redacted your message. We're going to have to figure out what it was. Oh, yeah, we'll definitely stay safe. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Oh, yeah. Well, just be kind to these folks. Look, when people put the nasty comments in, we know, because we're spiritual. We know it's not them, because everybody's a child of God. At some point they were, and they still are. It's the darkness. The darkness gets a hold of you. And let me tell you something else. I'm not afraid of you, devil. You revealed yourself to me in one of these cemeteries, and it did frighten me. But then when I realized what it was, in the name of Jesus, and the power washed in the blood. Friends, what I'm saying is a lot of these folks, it's the darkness lashing out. Because that darkness don't want the cemeteries cleaned up. The evil, the darkness, it wants these cemeteries to be in a state of derelict so the families stay angry and depression. Friends, is this starting to make sense to y'all? When we lose the interest on the football or the motorcycle clubs or whatever it was holding us back, and we get to like what our real purpose here on earth is. It's spreading joy, the good news, doing selfless acts of service, which I got to get to work, friends. Well, friends, you can take all these nasty comments with a grain of salt, friends. Because listen, I am a threat to you LGBT demons. I truly am, because I'm exposing you. And I'm old school gangster. I never did the pronouns. And friends, I didn't even do the COVID shots. And believe it or not, everybody, the reason that the Department of Veteran Affairs worked so hard to get rid of me, friends, and they didn't, I still got my lawsuit, is because I was exposing all the incompetence in the DEI. And they didn't like it too much, friends. You just got to pray for these folks. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Mr. Kevin. Hold on, friends. The Arizona Backcountry Explorer, he says, I've spent the last 10 years hunting down old grave sites abandoned on federal lands in the middle of nowhere in my Jeep. And I have found and documented tons of veterans. Friends, send me an email. I'd love to learn more. You know, I don't know if you do YouTube. I don't know if you do shorts and videos. Let me know. I'd love to highlight you. Sergeant_Grizzlegrits. Just look me up, friends. Just go to the website, grizzlyarmy.com. Oh, Rob Green. A TBI is a traumatic brain injury. I was in Afghanistan 2 tours, and I did a year in Kuwait, and then I did 8-9 months in Germany with the Special Operations Command. A traumatic brain injury is when you're like near a bomb, an explosion, and the wave, it jiggles your brain. It's all true, friends, and it can cause a lot of harm. A lot of soldiers deal with those things. And friends, I had a real nasty day, and I don't want to get into it. I got to get to work. September the 28th of 2005. We had an attack on the Kabul Military Training Center, and I was in a guard tower. And the blast was like from here to the fence over there. It was huge, friends. It blew me out of the chair because we had all the windows open. All right, look, friends, my favorite camo, and then we got to get to work. I can't lie, friends. The multicam's the coolest one. I do like the BDUs. The ACUs were a nightmare. I mean, the buttons, they didn't put buttons on it. They put this It wasn't even Velcro. It was called hook and loop. The hook and the loop. It was a nightmare, friends. I mean, you'd wash your AC, your army, your multicams. That's what we called them. You would wash them a few times, and then the Velcro didn't work any longer. And then you had a bunch of pockets, they wouldn't shut, and then you're always doing push-ups because your uniform's all messed up. I don't know, friends. Just stick with the multicams. That's my favorite camo. No, my friend. I'm not hunting. I'm hunting for some weeds. We got to get to work, friends. All right, friends. Enough jibber jabber. I'll hang around for a little while, but I'm going to start with a weed whacker. And then we're going to clean up this right here. I want to chop all that down and put it up near the front. That way when people drive by, they don't just see a pile of debris. They're going to look in here and see the cemetery. Again, friends, what's the standard of the cemetery? That's right. We should be able to look from one side all the way to the other side and not have any obstructions but the headstones. Give me 1 minute, please. But real quick, before we get to work here, I just want to show you some of the work we did yesterday. Oh, I'm sorry. Don't look at me. Look, friends. This whole area was overgrown. We got these graves up. This was all overgrown. This had like 3 feet of just dead grass all over it. This man was a World War II soldier. We're out here, friends, I'm not on here just to do goofy live streams. That's not why I do this. I'm trying to bring some awareness. And believe it or not, this is the first time in like 2 years that I even have anybody watching my live streams. That's why I'm trying to get to all the comments. But all these trees, all these limbs here were all up in there. So we got them all trimmed up. I've already taken two big old bags of trash out of here, and I probably got about 10 more to go. Somebody just started throwing trash in the pile right here. We got to get this cleaned up, and this is going to take a while. We got to be very careful. Could be ants in there. We mowed this area, and this area I was really concerned about because it was, I don't know, it was like uneven. Bunch of trees down. These two folks right here, you couldn't even, the whole grave was overgrown, everybody. These two graves right here look like this. Look how beautiful these are. The art, friends. When you come out here and you're an art person like me, oh, wow. Uh-oh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Friends, this lady had 7 children. Right? Am I reading? Can y'all see that? Maybe not. Wendell, Victor, Edward, Helen, Thomas, Haight. I can't read that one. Arlene. Daddy loved in life, remembered always. That's cool, friends. That's cool. Here's another one. Look at all these friends. Back in the day, people had like seven children because you needed children to help you with the farm, you know. And now, like, ain't none of y'all want to have children. I got a soldier over here. We got to get his headstone cleaned. But friends, there's a lot of work out here, and this is very rewarding. This is rewarding work. This will help end the veteran suicide. If I get some veterans out here that are at risk, you know, I mean, you got to be a little stable. I can't have you out here doing kooky, crazy stuff. But getting to work makes you feel good. You feel like you got a purpose. And then you long for the next work party. Friends, this little child yesterday, you couldn't even see the grave. It looked like that right there. This breaks my heart, friends. Look how little this is. There's a child down there. Little Madison. Oh, he was 11 years old, friends. I mean, listen. There's a lot of children out here. I think there's almost more children out here than there is people, like adults. Here's the Reverend right here, the minister. We found him yesterday. So I need one of y'all to come out here, and we need to get this thing all cleaned up. We need to scrape all the lichen off, the bird poop, and we're going to scrub it with some D2. Here's the man with the Pro-Line fishing boat, and there's the old Skyway Bridge. Isn't that cool, everybody? Friends, this whole area, you couldn't even walk in it yesterday. It was nothing but thickets, 4 or 5 feet tall. Here's another Reverend. This man here, one of the original ones out here, I think, 1886. Now, friends, I'm going to show you something. This is the one I told my children about earlier, and this one broke my heart yesterday. It was Raphael, the Ninja Turtle. Can y'all see that? So we very carefully, friends, this whole thing was overgrown. It looked like that. We very carefully removed the statues there. We put them over here. We cleaned it. We weed whacked. And then we sat over here off the camera and we wept, friends. I had a mourning session because God and Jesus was allowing me. Friends, I don't get visions. I don't have that gift. I can't see the future or the past. But what God will do is he will allow me, very briefly, he'll allow me to put myself in the parent's shoes. It's called the empathy. And he'll allow me to feel what it was like to be out here the day they put their children out here. And it's very sad, friends. And that's why we must be slow to anger. Because children are children, and they're going to do what children do. All right, look, friends, we're going to get started over here. But what we're going to do first is we got to get all the debris out. And then we're going to go through it with the weed whacker. Maybe the mower. I don't know. We got to see how safe it is. Oh, my God. Okay. So I like these are a little thicker contractor bags from Home Depot. They're not cheap. They're like $30. And they make even thicker ones, but this is really all we need. Now, friends, when you're out here, you must look for, you got to check your surroundings. Could be snakes out here. I've already seen 2 black snakes, and they're harmless, but I just don't like snakes. Any kind of animals, wildlife, typically when you're moving around, they're going to scatter away. But you must look for snakes, scorpions, and ticks, friends. We got lots of ticks that could fall down on us. We are in Florida. We're down here in Tampa Bay area. Again, if you just joined, we're at the Samford Historical Cemetery right here in Riverview. It's been forgotten about, friends. About 10, 15 years since anybody's really been out here doing this type of stuff. So, friends, you just got to be very cognizant of your area. I don't want nobody. If you come out here on a work party, I don't want nobody getting injured. So we're just going to go through and pick these flowers up. I had a lot of ants over here. Oh, there's more ants. Look at these daggone ants. Friends, if you pull it up and there's ants like that, you just drop it. Because what the ants are going to do is they're going to scatter away. Ants love this area. There's a model truck over here, so obviously that man had a truck like that. Golly, the ants. There must have been ants from the other pile. All right. Y'all come on in here. Come on. Yeah, see these ants, these fire ants they've already scattered. Because they live down in these little pipes. This don't look that old. We may be able to reuse some of these. This one had the ants. Friends, I'm going to show you something. There's still ants on it. Friends, that right there is recent. Somebody was recently out here. And that breaks my heart, friends. That's unacceptable. We're going to put this over here. We're going to put it back. I think some of these we can reuse. But some are just so they start falling apart because it's plastic. We got headstones here. And look, friends, another thing you need to look for is bees, wasps. When a place like this is not kept, nature takes over. See, that's what I'm looking for right there. I got something on the ground. I can't bring the tractor in here, not yet. Hey, look at this. Oh no, this one's like a picket fence. These are nightmare ones. This is garbage, friends. I hate to be that way. So the ones with the little picket fences, you can't even see it, but I'm looking at it here. We remove them, friends, because it makes maintaining it really difficult. This, friends, this stuff. If you're going to do something like this for your family, do them a favor. Don't use this, friends, because it makes the weed whacking hard, and after a few years, this deteriorates, and then it's a mess. And then the guy or gal or whoever's responsible for cleaning the cemetery, well, they're not even gonna go around your family spot. It's a mess. All right, let's see. So I just kind of like to get an idea of what I'm about to get myself involved in. There's like, things like this, friends, if it's porcelain and it's not all broken, we keep it. We're not going to remove it. That's something a family put there, and that can be put back. All right, let me go get the weed whacker, and we're going to get to work in this area. So today's job, friends, let me just show you the before and after. And I hope the live stream's still working. Nasty. We got park benches here that who wants to have a picnic on that? Friends, I know them snakes are up in there because both of them ran up in there yesterday. Oh, I don't want to mess with no rattlesnakes. So again, friends, we're gonna put it. Oh Lord Jesus, who the hell's calling me? Spam, all the spam. So again, this is today's task. This is a lot. There's like 10 or 20 graves over here. There's one right here. Oh. And I'm sure we'll find more once we get to cleaning. But you want to get all the trash that you can, because when you hit it with your weed whacker, it'll explode, and then you got a huge mess to clean up. All right, friends, that's the job, so let's get to work. All right, I'll be right back.
Come check this out. Fish. I gotta be careful with this one. Look at that. Friends, this is an antique right here. This is an old Coca-Cola fountain glass. My father had a bunch of these because he had a soda shop in our home growing up. That's cool. I told you, friends, this is like an archaeological dig. All with respect, though. What I mean, these flowers turn into a mess. They're just falling apart. There's a lot of stuff over here, but we're gonna put it all back. We just got to get rid of all the garbage. And there's a lot more over there. If you hit it with your weed whacker, then you got a huge mess. Ugh. Pretty cool, huh? We'll put everything right back where it goes after we get it all cleaned up. But friends, don't come out here and drink alcohol with your family. Where they are, there is no alcohol. And even if they're in the eternal fire, they're going to be begging that you get sober. Ouch. Friends, alcohol and drugs alter our thinking. And that leads to sin, everybody. Alcohol leads to temptation. Temptation leads to sin. And sin creates separation between us and God. And we don't want that, everybody. Oh, goodness. I just got a whiff of something, friends. There's an unclean spirit out here. It don't like the fact that I'm cleaning up this place. Friends, I just got a whiff of death. Like Unless there's a dead animal in there I hadn't found yet. Friends, those things happen. Those things are very common out here. Especially when you get spiritual. You understand that there's no ghost out here. It's either clean and godly in the Holy Spirit, or it's unclean, friends. It's one or the other. It's black or white. That was disgusting. Whatever it was like a whiff of like, it smelled like one of these graves had just opened up. But that's not possible, friends. These people have been buried for a very long time. But it is true, if you're new to the channel, back in December, go check out one of my videos from December. I was out doing one of these cemeteries, and I had gotten done, and it got dark, and it was about 8 o'clock at night, so I turned all the cameras off. I went out, and I just walked around the graveyard. And I didn't have my cameras with me. When I'm praying to Jesus, we're supposed to do that privately. And three glowing red eyes, about 8 inches off the ground, zigzagging, like 3 demons crawling on their bellies to come get me, or serpents, came right at me, friends. It's all true. I had the fright. There's that smell again. Stinks, friends. The Satan and the unclean. That's why they call them unclean, friends. It's the smell of death. And that's why we got to come out here with our pink bandana, friends. Or there could be a dead animal in there. I don't know. It's something that stinks real bad. It's starting to. I don't know. But let's get back over here. That's kind of cool, huh? Ugh. Ugh. There's some big roaches out here. Ugh. I got two headstones right here. Another big pile of dead leaves. Dead. There's a lot of stuff in here. I found the angry gnome. There's a lot of stuff in here. I think I found out what that stink is. There's a dead bird over here. I told you, friends, I smelled death. It's like a little bird. Huh. Stinky. I have to go get my shovel. All right, look, friends, I got to get the tractor out because now that I did a good weed whack, I'm going to drive the tractor to get all these roots, all these stems. Yeah, it'll do a pretty good job. All right. Ugh. All right, friends. Now's a good time for a little break. Look at the work we've done in here. Again, I mean, you couldn't even see any of this, but that one over there has got a lot of little trinkets. Friends, these flowers are, these right here are less than 6 months old. So somebody's come out here, I think over at Jimmy Ray. They came out here and they probably cried harder than the day they put Mr. Jimmy Ray short in the ground because of how bad it looks. Hold on, everybody. Just. Friends, just a moment ago, a Hillsborough County employee in a truck, I saw the graphics. A Hillsborough County employee came right to that gate and turned around. Hillsborough County, are y'all responsible for this? If I find out that man that just turned around, I waved at him. He just got on out of here. Hillsborough County government, if I find out you're responsible for this place, we're gonna have a real problem. Maybe not as severe as the Veterans Day, but we're gonna have a real problem. If I find out that Hillsborough County government is somehow responsible for this, and because of all the DEI that's just taken over the government, it's true, friends. I can't stand this county I live in. It wasn't always this bad. I hate these little stickers. They get everywhere. Hillsborough County. If we find out that Hillsborough County is supposed to be responsible for this, because somebody owns this. I mean, you can't just have land and not have an owner, because then a developer will come by and steal it. Somebody has a. Hold on, everybody. Somebody owns this property. We saw a video last night of Mr. Michael Button. And friends, if he owned it and his family owned it and then he died, which I don't know. I mean, the guy he'd be in his 80s now, his he'd be almost 90, because I think that video we found was from 2016. Friends, if the family, I think it goes to probate, and then the state or the county picks it up, friends. Friends, the county probably owns this property. If I was a betting man, I'm not. I would bet the county. I just had an employee come down here and he saw me in here working, and he got on the hell out of there, because I'm sure they know that somebody's out here getting something done. Again, Hillsborough County government, how come y'all didn't have this place cleaned up? We got veterans out here. I got Jimmy Ray Short over here, Jr. I got all this family out here. I'll tell you what I'm gonna do, friends. If I do find out Hillsborough County is responsible for this, and it was because of them that they got to this state of neglect, I told you I'm gonna cemetery work. I'm gonna charge you $80 an hour. I'm gonna charge you $80 an hour, and I've been out here for, let's see, 6 hours first day, 12 hours. I've been out here for about 15 hours. So we're gonna write a bill to you. You can make it payable to the Grizzly Army Ministries Incorporated. Then we're gonna take that money and we're gonna create a fund, a cemetery fund for this place, so we can have a little money to keep this place going. For instance, cemetery should never get in this state. This just shows me how severe our society and our local people are. And these people don't care. Nobody cares. I guess I'm the only man that actually gives a damn about these type of things. But that'll happen to you when Jesus removes you from your work, your career. When Jesus starts working on you, he takes the alcohol and all the evil out of you. Friends, the last couple of years in the motorcycle clubs, I had to force myself to go to all the events. I just didn't like it. I just lost interest. And then it was like more of an obligation. And then there was some other stuff, and then I just said, the hell with it. I ain't got time for this nonsense. There's still a lot of good folks that ride around in some of these clubs I was in. But I don't ever see them get out and do these type of things, you know? I'm not trying to be judgy, but it's the truth. This is what I live for, everybody. I couldn't believe this place existed in the state that it does. Wow. Again, it's almost like God designed this just for me, just so I could come out here, complain, get y'all's interest, to help everybody out. I mean, friends, the families there's still family alive with all these people out here. I know, because these flowers, these flowers are new. They're at least less than a year old. All right, friends, go ahead. Hey, Sergeant Major Grizzle Grits work party. Y'all go ahead and take a little siesta. We're gonna have a little lunch. Friends, only the finest for the Sergeant Major. Look, I got some turkey, we got a little mayo, some gray poupon mustard, and a little slice of cheese, friends. I'm living the dream. Y'all know I'm living the stinking dream. Friends, I got everything I could ever want. Let's go here. I can take a little seat. Okay. Are we still alive or did we lose it? Oh. You know, friends, I literally have every single thing I could ever want in my life. I got a wife who's come around and a lot more understanding than she used to be. A mother-in-law who's come around and she's actually getting on board with what we're doing. I got her out looking for cemeteries now too. That's the Gold Star mother-in-law. Her son, Sergeant David Andrew Croft, my brother-in-law, he was killed in Iraq in 2010, January. Now, I don't know if these soldiers that are buried out here, I don't know if they were killed in combat. So if they just died and they buried them out here, they're not a Gold Star family. You have to be killed in combat, in armed conflict. That county employee probably comes out here. There's no lock on the gate, friends. You can just get it. He probably comes out here, parks his truck over here, and he probably sleeps most of the day off out here because he knows ain't nobody going to come out here and find him. Again, why is a county employee down a dead-end road here? It's about lunchtime. I told you, friends, that discernment will get you. I should have got a truck number. Maybe he was checking the water meters. I don't know, friends. Friends, when we have competent leaders in our local community, these type of things don't ever happen. Because I know, I already know. When that news article was done in 2016, Mr. Michael Button was begging for help. He was just begging for it. And they did a Tampa Bay 10 or one of these local news outlets did a whole spot on him because they were trying to help the man out. And ain't nobody, friends. I don't think I ever saw that one. But again, my priorities were a little different back then. I was living life for me. I was all about me in 2016. I was working for the congressman, but I was all about me, friends. And I was drinking a lot of drinking back then. But friends, if we had some county commissioners that gave a damn, if we had some local leaders around here that gave a damn, friends, I don't think this place would have fallen into the state that it's in, because somebody in the community would have said, hey, County Commissioner Ronald Messer, we got the cemetery. It needs some work. Can you help us out? Can you give us a little attention? And friends, I would say, oh, let me go out there and take a look. And then we would have talked about it at the next board meeting. Community need, friends, community. But this place is a clear example of the problem in our country. Developer. Money. Let's just forget about the cemetery and act like it didn't exist. We'll just keep all the people, we'll keep them on the drugs and the alcohol and the TikTok and the silly AI videos. And then they will just forget about this eventually. And then another 10 years, it'll just be so overgrown, nobody will even know there's a cemetery out there. And then we can just, in the dead of night, come out there and bulldoze it over and we'll put a Walmart. I'm telling you, friends, these things have happened before. Freemason right there. Oh, wow. Friends, the grave that we just unearthed, 1885. 1885. Ransome. Martha Ransome, born 1820, died 1825. And I can't see the husband. Oh. But friends, we're getting it done. It's just piece by piece. This is a lot of work. This ain't just a mow job and a weed whack. I mean, I'm literally chopping trees down. Every one of these thickets could grow into be a huge oak tree, but you know they all don't make it. Especially not with the Grizzly Army out here. None of them are gonna make it. This breaks my heart, everybody. You know, that sergeant with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department, Brian Levingy, that man did give his life, friends. I did a short this morning. Go check out the short if you haven't already seen it. The man was on his last day of work at the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. This was back in January, I think 11th, if I remember. We were just there, January 11th, 2021. Friends, it was his last day on the job. He was going to have a retirement party that weekend, the next day, Saturday. I think he was married with children. He was a Christian. And believe it or not, I got a friend that her son's little league baseball coach was this man I'm telling you about, Mr. Sergeant Brian Levingy. My friends, the guy had been on the force for like 20-something years. He was retiring. Richie and Tommy Shannon knew the man. A lot of y'all knew him. These are the kind of deputies that I remember. A deputy that would use discernment. So if you were, you know, kind of young and doing something you shouldn't have been, maybe a stern talking would get you in line. They didn't just go back to their squad car like Sergeant B. Kinney and just look up every law and find a law and then just throw you in jail. That's what happened to me, friends. I ran into the worst, the absolute worst of Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department. I've had to interact with the worst of y'all. I got thrown in jail because I didn't have a $15 ham radio license, friends. And I get it. I should have had the scanner in the truck, but I didn't know that, friends. And I was not scanning these people. And it was very evident what I was doing. I was doing a live stream. I had business cards on me. I told them that I was an advocate and I was doing advocacy work. And I rolled up to these folks to introduce myself. And maybe I should have called the community liaison. But friends, they were already looking for me is what I'm telling you. And they had so much. See, friends, when you have pleasure throwing people in jail and trying to disrupt their lives, when that gives you pleasure, you got no business being in law enforcement. You got no business. Because that's not law enforcement. That's evil. I guarantee you, Richie and Tommy Shannon, and even the sergeant I'm telling you about, I guarantee you there was many times that they probably could have taken someone down to the Orient Road jail. And maybe they took another route that actually put that person on the right path. But that man, that Sergeant Brian Levingy, he was killed on his last day on the job, everybody. Last few hours of his shift, he put his cruiser with Chad Cronner's name all over it. Perverted sheriff. We can't stand that sheriff. We can't wait till he's gone, guys. He's gonna be gone sooner than later. Because that heat's getting turned up on his perverted butt. My friends, that Sergeant Brian Levingy, there was a maniac going down right here in our community, friends, right near my house. Could have been my family going to the mall, or your family. And some maniac on drugs, just possessed with the demons in him, influencing all his evil decisions. He was going 100 miles an hour down Lumsden. Right there in Brandon, friends. And some other deputies, they tried to apprehend him, and he slipped away because the man was on drugs. He jumped in a car and he went 100 miles an hour down Lumsden. And this sergeant I'm telling you about, friends, he put his cruiser in the path of that maniac and it killed him. He gave his life for all of us. Friends, when that happened, I had no idea who Chad Chronister was. I had no idea about the Cronster. I had no idea he was a diversity hire, and he was. I didn't know what I didn't know because I was still working at Bay Pines VA as the assistant chief. And friends, I remember when the sergeant was killed that night. There was a big news conference. Chad Chronister, the perverted girly man sheriff himself, he mustered up the little bit of courage that he has, and he went out there in front of the camera, right there on Lumsden, right there in front of the O'Briens in that parking lot. And he gave a press conference, and the man was crying. He was way over his head as a sheriff. But I know that the tears were real, and it got me all teary-eyed. Friends, I wanted to go out there and stand with the sheriffs. I really wanted to get in my truck at like 11 o'clock at night when the Cronkster was out there. And I wanted to go out there and just give him a hug, friends. This was before I knew who he was. But friends, I had been drinking all night. And I just knew if I had gone out there, I would have gone to jail, and I should have, because you're not supposed to drink and drive. And friends, I drove past that memorial that we were at earlier today. Every day on the way to work, in my truck, I would give the sergeant a salute on my way to work when I was going through that hostile work environment, all the way to the Bay Pines VA on the other side of Tampa Bay, friends. I drove an hour to work. Some days it was 3 hours to get home because of all the traffic. Uh-oh. Oh my gosh, friends, my boots are literally falling apart. I gotta get some new boots. And then, friends, when I lost my job opportunity because all the diversity, equity, and inclusion, the hostilities that I was subjected to, I didn't get to go to work anymore. I had a mental health relapse. I hired a lawyer, and I sued y'all's perverted butts. And then when I had to start doing my protest, friends, this was sometime later, 6 months later. It'd been a while since I've driven that way because I wouldn't have no need to go down that part of Lumsden. But I drove past the sergeant's memorial, and there was a flag, and they had some other stuff on the ground. And friends, I couldn't find it. And then I turned around, and I couldn't find it. So I slowly pulled over on the side of the road, and I just started looking. And then I saw what looked like the remnants of a sheriff's shield, a star. And the flag was still on the pole, but it was ripped and faded. And friends, I'm not lying. When you see the overgrowth in this place, that sergeant's memorial had vines and weeds all the way up to the flagpole. It hadn't been cleaned in a long time. Like at least a couple years, you know, when I had refound it. I got angry, everybody. I started just ripping the weeds out and cursing, and I said, this will never happen in my community. Friends, that's before I did these cemeteries. That's literally the first one, the first memorial. And I came back later that day or the next day with my weed whacker. I weed whacked the whole area. And I put some drumsticks down there. That used to be my thing, giving out people drumsticks. But then, friends, life got in the way. You know, my wife didn't understand the protesting. She threw me in the loony bin. I was Baker acted, injunction, a nightmare, friends. So I said, all right, enough. I get it. I won't do it no more. I'll just be a good boy. I'll just do what I'm told. Well, friends, it wasn't much longer until I had to go back out there and protest again. The Bay Pines VA, they were going to toss my whole lawsuit out. And then they asked for an extension. They wanted 180, they wanted a 90-day extension. And friends, they wanted that extension because it was the election. And they really were hoping that the Kamala was going to win, the Obamas. And then they could have just tossed it all out. They would, I wouldn't have been able to do nothing. But I said, oh, no. I'm giving you 180 days. That's all you get, not 1 day more. So I went out there and I protested the Bay Pines again, everybody. And again, I drove past the memorial and it looked horrible. It's crazy how fast this stuff will grow. So that's that flag, friends. That flag in that video, that was a flag that I was out protesting Bay Pines, upside down. But for the sergeant, it's the right way because it's all about honor and respect. Friends, I know a lot of y'all think I hate the sheriff and I don't like any of the deputies, but that's not true, friends. That's not true at all. It's just like in the Army, in the National Guard. Friends, I'm going to tell you something. One bad deputy, one mistake can give a black eye to the whole department. But these things are going to happen, friends. Nobody's perfect. I get it. I'm all about that forgiveness, you know, and I'm master level trained. But when it happens over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and you got high-ranking people getting in trouble with the drinking and the DUIs, and you got all this, friends, that's a culture. That's a culture problem. That ain't a fluke. That Matthew Fluke, the guy that murdered my soldier. We're going to go out there and see him tomorrow, my soldier. But friends, I'm going to share this with you. Then I got to get back to work. Friends, I had a soldier. I can't remember the man's name. He was a good soldier. He was a staff sergeant. This was in my radar platoon in the Florida Army National Guard out there in Lakeland. Drainfield Road, 2nd and the 116th. Field Artillery. First, I was the platoon sergeant. I was the E7 Sergeant First Class. Bird, Sergeant Bird, Staff Sergeant Bird. Friends, this man was a weirdo, but he was a good soldier. He knew his stuff, and I could always count on the guy. But he was a weirdo. There was something about him that was off. I can't explain it, friends. But I'm about to tell you. And I worked with a man for about a year, and he was always a good soldier. Anytime I gave him a task, he got it done. And it was always like he was trying to impress me. He knew that I was the real deal combat guy, and I knew my stuff. And he wanted to, when you got a good leader, you want to be like that leader. When you got a perverted guy like the Cronkster, well, then you can just do whatever the hell you want. You can come to work drunk. You can murder soldiers and don't give them enough time to comply. Like we're going to talk about that later. That's the Staff Sergeant Vincent Morin that the deputies just murdered, friends. They didn't give the man due process. They just said, "Oh, we don't like you wearing the tactical gear. Oh, and you got a weapon on you, so we're just going to kill you." And they did, friends. They did. Horrible. That man needed help. That man needed your motorcycle ride and your little swim across Tampa Bay. He needed that suicide awareness, and he didn't get it in time. So Chad Chronister and his goons gave him that suicide awareness, put him right in the ground. Friends, there's all kind of weird noises out here. But friends, this Staff Sergeant Bird, he was a good soldier, but there was something about him, friends. I told you, God gave me a gift. I didn't know if he was a closet homosexual. I just didn't know. I kind of thought he was, but then he was married and he had kids and he had some stepkids with the wife's previous marriage. Oh my gosh. Oh, I gotta get the water. I'm about to choke. That would make y'all haters just so happy. See me choke to death on the live stream. But that wouldn't be in God's plan. I certainly hope not. Check it out, friends. Sergeant Bird. I told you, the man was a good soldier. He always came to drill on time. Never had any complaints. He always passed his PT test. So always rated him really high on his NCOERs. But friends, check it out. We had a long drill weekend. We're up at Camp Blanding. That's where we do our training. And I'm the platoon sergeant. So I got my soldiers training over here in the field and over here, and I'm bouncing around. And I go back to the top, the Tactical Operations Center, where our commander is. And friends, I'm not lying. Four Polk County deputies and a detective were all there waiting. And I'm like, my goodness, what are y'all doing here? Because Drainfield Road's in Polk County. I mean, and we were up in Clay County. I think it's Clay County. It's where Camp Blanding is. It's near Jacksonville. So I got 4 deputies, and they're all in unmarked cars, and they're all in their uniform and their tactical gear. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what are y'all doing, training? They're like, oh, no. And then my first sergeant comes up to me, and he goes, Sergeant Messer, I need you to go get Sergeant Bird. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what's this all about? And he says, I can't talk about it. You just got to go get him. So I had to go get this soldier. I had to get Sergeant Bird. He was out training the soldiers. I had to go pick him up. And the deputies, they all came with me. And then they told me to wait here, and then they went over there and they put cuffs on the man. And I'm like, oh my Lord Jesus, what are y'all doing to my sergeant? Friends, hold on. I told you about the rotten apple. Friends, it turns out Sergeant Bird was molesting his stepdaughter. A 13 or 14-year-old child, friends. I couldn't believe it, friends. I could not believe it. It broke my heart, it broke my trust. So I've been dealing with this stuff like my whole, friends. I was never harmed by a sex pervert, but for some reason, God has allowed me to be around these people all my life in the workplace. I had a lieutenant once, Lieutenant Jason Shorts. The guy was he's not in the closet any longer. He came out. He was in love with me, and I told him that's a no-go, sir. I'm your platoon sergeant. But friends, here's the best part about that situation. The Florida Army National Guard knew that they didn't want this getting out to everybody. So that man was like gone like that. We never heard from the man again. But when you got all these scandals like the Cronkster and the sheriff down here, and it's in the news like every week, there's another scandal. Friends, the whole department looks horrible. And I know there's a lot of good deputies out there. I've met y'all. I'm friends with some of y'all. But what I'm saying is my commander didn't get on the TV and start making excuses for Sergeant Byrd. I think he was finding out if we could do the firing squad and go bury him at the POW camp out there at Camp Blanding, friends. It comes down to leadership, is what I'm explaining to you. When you got problems like that and you keep making excuses and you say, well, what they did in the cheating scandal, even though it was wrong, it wasn't malicious. Well, no. I think all those people that got caught up in that FBI scandal, I think they should have gone to jail. You don't get a retirement because I'm paying for all these crooks. Matthew Fluke, Deputy Matthew Fluke, and Courtney Brittany, whatever the hell these people are, friends, they came to my battery charge. I had one of these employees batter me when I was doing my protest. And the two knuckleheads that killed that staff sergeant that we're going to go visit tomorrow, those two knuckleheads showed up for me. I got the names all over my paperwork. They were trembling, friends, because I told them, I said, I know y'all murdered my soldier. And they're like, oh, yeah. But friends, I didn't know it was actually them until like a week later. But again, Chad Chronister went out there and defended all that. Said they got a threat off the street. I don't know, friends. That guy's got to go. He's bad news. He's bad juju. But we got to get back to work, everybody. Enough of that clown. All right, friends. Now here's what we're going to do. We're going to get the mower out, and we're going to carefully mow over this area. Friends, I go home and I start coughing up graveyard dirt out of my lungs. It's so disgusting. But again, somebody's got to get the damn job done. All right, everybody. All right, work party, lunch break's over. Hold on here. All right, friends, we're going to get the mow job going on here now. Okay. Well, there you go. Oh, hold on. So look, everybody, I do my live streams and then I go home and put shorts together, the YouTube shorts. So, I mean, you don't have to hang around the whole time, but I appreciate you. Friends, look what we've done in like 2 hours. I don't know who's still watching. This is pretty neat. For the Lord thy God is with thee wherever thou goest. That's right, Jesus is always with you. Jim Bobber, Tim in heaven with Jesus and Jimmy. And old Cletus here. Cletus has gone fishing. That's so cool. While we're here, old Cletus has gone fishing. Again, friends, what we're doing today is we're opening up the cemetery. That way we can see from one end to the other. That's the rules. I don't make the rules afraid. It's looking pretty good, everybody. Truly, I couldn't have done it without. This whole area was overgrown yesterday. It was horrible. All right, friends, where to next? I guess we can still work on this area. This is just, it's getting harder and harder in here. Thicker and thicker. I don't think I'll be able to get the tractor up. The last thing we want to do is hit a rock or a headstone. That would not be good. All right, back to the weed whacking. All right. I'm shocked that that line lasted that long. That's okay, friends. We got extra line. Oh, Lord Jesus. So look, friends, Saturday, Saturday we're going to be at the Seffner Cemetery. We still live? Friends, Saturday we're going to be at the Seffner Cemetery. It's over near Brandon, it's North Brandon. We got another organization, the Brandon Roots. We've been kind of teaming up with them, just getting the sneaking job done. But friends, this place takes priority. It truly does. So Sunday after church, 12:30, 1 o'clock, we're going to come out here after church, friends. And we're going to get the back end squared away. So if y'all want to come out here, I'll be out. No, I can't be out here tomorrow, everybody. I'm giving out an award. I'm doing the Hundley Award tomorrow. For the Sons of Confederate Veterans. I'm going to be the representative for our camp. And we're going to go pass an award out to a aspiring soldier, a JROTC cadet at Brandon High School. So I'll be out there tomorrow morning doing that. And then we're going to roll by the memorial for Staff Sergeant Vincent Moore. It's right there on Providence in Brandon, right next to Lowe's. He was murdered right there at the bus stop. Whereas I have no idea why that guy was out there dressed like that. When I would go out there and dress up in my tactical gear, I was protesting. I had a purpose. And when it was not legal to have your guns on you, friends, I never had any guns or ammo. But when Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida here, when he passed the law in September that we could open carry anywhere in the state where it's legal, including county parks, and friends, Veterans Memorial Park's a county park, so you go figure it out. I'm just a lot smarter than some of y'all. Well, friends, there ain't nothing the deputies could do to me because I was legal. And they knew why I was out there. And I told over and over and over again in all my social media, I said, we're peaceful. Don't come out there and be disruptive. If anyone brandishes their weapon like in a manner that is not conductive to a peaceful protest, I told them I'd be the first one to grab a deputy and get you out of there. Because I just don't want the problems, friends. A lot of these deputies like what we're doing. because they remember the old school ways, not that long ago before everything got watered down with this diversity, equity, and inclusion. But then again, there's some other knuckleheads that are just itching to put 100 rounds in me. But I don't know, friends. That guy needed help. Staff Sergeant Vincent Morin was not a lunatic. The man was a combat soldier, staff sergeant. He deployed to Afghanistan. About the same time I was there on my second tour. He was in Iraq, so he was a multi-tour combat soldier. And knowing what I know and what some of y'all are learning about the Department of Veteran Affairs, friends, there's no help for us. We are all on our own. Unless you're a transgender, LGBT, or a homeless guy, there ain't no help for none of us. They hate us. They don't like us. It just sucks because that's like the last line of defense that for a lot of us to get help at the VA. But friends, there ain't no help for us. So if this staff sergeant, if he was, and I'm most certainly positive he was suffering from something, I don't know. He lived right down the road there in some apartment complex, so he would have gotten his care at the Tampa VA. And friends, I used to work at the Tampa VA. I know how rotten it is. The mental health clinic, friends. I used to work on 46th Street, and it was all diversity, friends. It was all. You don't know what you're talking about, Ron, because you got all that white privilege. You got blind spots because of your whiteness, friends. I was told that by a psychologist in the suicide prevention team. These people, they don't think for themselves. It's all diversity, equity, inclusion for them. And for them, it's cool. It's cool to be that way. I told you, friends, like these younger generations, you millennials, I can't explain y'all. A lot of y'all are just a disgrace to our country. You let all these perverts think for you. And friends, that's what you get. You get a bunch of incompetent psychologists, social workers. And they all got the gay lanyards, the gay pride lanyards. I'm sure they still do. They're not allowed to do that anymore, but they do what they want to do. So friends, that sergeant, I don't know why he was out there with that rifle. All I know is that when I reviewed the body cam footage, when it was released, Matthew Fluke told him to drop the effing gun like 10 times. And I heard the suspect. I heard Vincent Morin, the staff sergeant. I heard him comply. He says, okay. And then there was about 100 rounds put in the man. And friends, they carried 3-round bursts. Your Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department carries fully automatic weapons, friends. Weapons of war that we're not allowed to have. Highly trained soldiers like me that know when it's a good, clean kill and when we should engage, when there's a threat, or when we need to follow the rules of engagement. But friends, when you don't train to standards and you train about diversity and you let incompetent people like Brittany and Matthew Fluke become deputies, friends, these things are going to happen. So tomorrow's the 1-year anniversary when Deputy Matthew Fluke, Courtney Brittany, I think that's her name. She's a big old fat chubby deputy. Probably could never pass a PT test. Probably didn't have to take one. Friends, I got these folks on camera. I didn't know who they were when I was recording them at the Veterans Park. Maybe I'll release it later. Y'all got to know who these people are. They may come to your call when you need some help. And then you'll be like, you're the deputy that murdered that staff sergeant. Did he point the weapon at you or did you just kill him? Friends, they just killed him because somebody got scared and pulled the trigger. And friends, that's when we heard the 3-round burst. I heard 10 bursts, friends, 10 bursts. And there's 30 rounds in a mag, so you could go figure it out, friends. Go listen to it, friends. Don't take my word for it. I think it was the lieutenant. He had a 3-round burst, and he shot and killed the man. Killing my line. All right, look, friends, we're going to end the live stream. We'll be back later, show you our process. Oh, my goodness. Oh, this area here has just been the hardest one so far. Golly. Hold on. Any interesting comments since... Hang on, everybody. What a mess. What an absolute mess. All right, everybody. We're going to have to log it off here in a moment. But I'm done, everybody. It's oh, golly. It's slow going, friends. This is a nasty cemeteries that I've had to clean. I mean, my pleasure, friends. I love doing this stuff. Friends, again, hold on here. Friends, for those of us that were in the army, in the military, the real military. And friends, I was in the National Guard, but we were in like one of the highly deployed units. We were always deployed, friends. Now, I don't know if that's true, but the 53rd Infantry Brigade, the Florida Army National Guard, if we weren't deployed somewhere, we were training for the next deployment. We were an infantry brigade combat team. I spent time in the field artillery. I was a forward observer. And I was I had two MOSs, friends. I was a 13 Fox, and then that perverted lieutenant that I told you about, that Jason Shorts. Well, he fired me because I didn't take kindly to his advances towards me. Ugh. And he did, friends. He wrote me like a 10-page counseling and fired my butt. So then I got to go be a radar platoon sergeant. I had to get a whole nother MOS, friends. I went to 13 Romeo school, and I became one of your radar platoon sergeants. So I got 2 MOSs, friends. I wanted to be a warrant officer, but then I took the opportunity to go to Germany. Hold on, let me catch my breath. But friends, for us that were in the dirty MOSs, the guys they just started letting females in when I got out, and that was like another reason why I got the hell out of there. No offense, ladies. There's just God made us different. Don't get me started. There's just things that men can do that you ladies can't do. And believe it or not, ladies, there's things that y'all can do that I can never do. Friends, I can pretend to be a lady all day long. You must believe me, I'm a lady. I'm going to go to a ladies' restroom and change and put some makeup on and have fake prosthetic boobies and do TikTok videos. But I'll never get pregnant and have a child, friends. I told you. Y'all just need to stop all that crazy stuff. But friends, check it out. Oh, somebody's drinking beer already? Come on, friend. At least wait till, well, I mean, you're probably unemployed. I don't know how long ago that comment was. But look, friends, when we come out here and when I come out here and do these type of things, it truly reminds me of being back out in the field with my soldiers, you know, because it was nasty and hot and sweaty. And we were literally out in the field on the OP or doing land nav. And it sucked and it was nasty. But later on that night, if we weren't in the field for days, when we get back to the rear, you just had a sense of pride of you because you're stinky, you're sweaty, and you're looking at all the admin guys and all the supply people, and they got all their uniforms all clean. And we all got the same paycheck. We didn't get extra, but we were just looking at them like, yeah. Y'all are girly, you know. Come out in the field with us. So friends, let's see here. That's a long one. Let's see. Well, I got you there. Hold on, friends. Let's just read these comments and I'm gonna get on that here. All right, friends, that's it. I got all the comments read. Look, friends, I'm gonna drink a little water. I'm gonna get a little hydration going on, but I'm gonna be out here. Not tomorrow, friends. I got to do the Hunley Award in the morning. It's pretty cool, friends. I'm gonna wear my nice congressional suit. And I'll ask them if I can live stream. Maybe they'll let me do the live stream. But I don't want to get all the students. I don't like children on the internet. I don't like my children on my live streams, and I don't want to put somebody else's children. But if they let me speak, I'll ask the ROTC commander if I could set it up, because friends, this is history, you know, and I'm all about the history. And I always knew that in my lineage we had Confederate lineage. I always knew that because my mom's side of the family, they're from South Georgia. And Granny Papa used to always talk about these things, but they're off with Jesus now. But friends, I love history. And when I found out that my great-great-great-great-granddaddy, James Madison Burgess, was a Confederate infantry soldier, well, friends, it just kind of all sealed it together. And then I joined the Sons of Confederate Veterans. And let me tell y'all something. They're not about hate. They're not about slaves. They're not about all that nonsense, friends. Let me tell you what these folks are about. I've known them ever since I met Mr. HK that day at the Veterans Park. They're about family values. These people don't curse. They don't hang out in bars and get drunk. They got black folks in their chapters. Mr. HK was a black man, just so y'all know. The Southern heritage is not what I used to think it was, and it's not what a lot of y'all think it is. When I used to see the battle flag, the Confederate flag, I used to have the same feelings, like, oh, I don't want to touch it. I don't want to touch it because somebody's going to get upset with me. Friends, that flag stirs up a lot of emotions in a lot of people. And it's all by design, you know. That's kind of what the devil does to us. But once I went down that journey and I started learning and I started reading and I started learning, friends, I got more in common with these folks than I do a lot of y'all. And that is the truth, friends. So anyways, we're going to do the Hunley tomorrow. And then I got to go out to Cedar Grove because we got a memorial going on. Friends, it's Confederate States Army Heritage Month. And we cleaned up some headstones. And I got one more to do, and I'm gonna weed whack the whole cemetery tomorrow because we got a service. We're doing a memorial service out there on Sunday. So, friends, if you're in the area and you want to come out there and pay your respects, you know, let me know. It's out in Cedar Grove Baptist Church out there in Lithia. Just meet us out there. We'll be out there about 2:30. But if you come out there and cause some problems, friends, I told you it's out in the middle of nowhere, and ain't nobody gonna miss you. And I already do got that. Yeah. They were going to do a service the other day, but then the family decided to put the veteran in a national cemetery. So, friends, I got a fresh hole for you. And it's already been scored away by the county. All I got to do is just throw you in there and put a little dirt over you nice and gingerly. So, look, friends, I'm going to roll. I'm going to take a break, and then I'm going to get back to work. Friends, I might be done with this area. I'm just kind of burnt out. It takes a lot to get in there but I got some area back here that'll be real easy with the weed whacker, and it'll look nice. For the next 3 or 4 hours I got out here, I could get the whole back section done. Look, friends, if you feel generous and you like what I'm doing, friends, this is all out of my own pocket. I'm not begging for contributions. I don't do it for the money or the likes, but the ministry runs on money, friends, and I don't get no donations, not yet. I got to get some signs for my truck. I got to get some banners made for the 4th of July parade, and I'm confident when we get in that parade, that's going to draw a lot of attention because it's going to take people right to the website, and then when they get to the website and my social media, it's going to bring them out here and see what the hell we've been doing. Again, friends, I'm the guy that's out here getting the job done before all the contributions come in. So I'm not going to hand you the bill when I'm done, but I hope that Holy Spirit starts talking to some of y'all because I'm doing this for all the right reasons. Because there ain't literally go watch that news article 10 years ago. The lady said, oh, they don't make men like that anymore. And they don't, friends. And I'm sorry, ladies. I'm so sorry. I'm taken. But I'm certain if you pray and you pray hard enough and it's a righteous prayer, and if it's in the Lord's plan, God's got that special person for you out there somewhere, but you'll never find that person in the bars. You probably won't find them on the internet either. You need to get your butt into church, because I'm certain if God's speaking to you and you go to church, if it's in his plan, that other person will probably be in that same church. Maybe y'all will meet at a Bible study. You can't be meeting in the bars, friends. That's the lust. You don't want to build a relationship off lust, friends. That's like with the first marriage. So look, friends, I'm going to get on out of here. I'm going to scram. Oh my gosh, friends, I could use a nap. Friends, when I find a project like this, I literally want to get it. I just want to take it all on. I don't even want to go home. I just want to sleep out here, take a nap, get back to work at like 2 a.m. But friends, I can't, because I'm 46 and my body ain't the young buck sergeant when I was in Afghanistan. I got to pace myself, friends. And the more I look around, there's just more work and more work and more work. So look, friends, tomorrow we're doing the Hundley Award. I got some other little cemeteries to bounce around. Saturday, if you guys and gals want to come out and get some of this action, Saturday, Brandon, Florida, we're doing the Samford Cemetery. We're doing headstone cleaning. So bring out your little brushes, bring out your buckets, your mop buckets, bring them out, friends. We're going to have the water, because my friend's going to bring his big old thing of water. And I got about 30 gallons of water in my truck. So y'all bring your water out, bring your scrubbers, bring some dish soap, because that's all we use on them. And I got the D2 and I got the granite gold. But come on out, friends. We got about 100 veterans headstones that we got to get clean. And then there's another 400 families out there that we got to get cleaned. And there's going to be volunteers. And look, friends, I told Robert I'd buy lunch. So we're going to do the Cuban sandwiches. And they're delicious, friends. I'll have water. I got another lady going to be donating some water, but bring water, friends. Whatever y'all feel, bring it out. This is a community effort, okay? Whatever's on your heart to do. If you want to just stop by and give a donation to the Grizzly Army Ministries, or if you want to give a donation to the Brandon Roots, friends, what I would recommend on these type of events, we're two separate entities, and we got two separate missions, but our hearts are both in the same place. If you got $100 and you want to donate, split it in half. Give me half and give the Brandon Roots half, friends. That'll make everyone feel good, and we can just spread the wealth. I'm not out here for the money, friends. Truly, I'm not. I'm not worried about the money. I got a lawsuit with the government, but those things just take forever. So in the meantime, I'm just out here getting the job done. But if you feel generous, friends, go to my website, grizzlyarmy.com. I got a pay link right there. You can donate it. And if you want a tax write-off, I can get you the tax write-off, because I am a 501c3. And I believe the Brandon Roots are too, or they're in the process. It should be done any day. But look, friends, we are the real deal. We're out here in the community getting these projects done, because there ain't nobody else around left to do them. Or maybe they are. Maybe it's you, and you just hadn't found that motivation yet. Well, tune in, friends. Subscribe to the channel. I'm going to provide that motivation. But friends, I got to get back to work. So friends, we'll be on later on when we're about to mosey on out of here, and I'll show you the work that we did. All right, y'all stay groovy. Subscribe to the channel. Grizzle 6 out. Corporal Steven.